So thank you all for coming today. It's really a pleasure to be here. So I'm going to be moderating this really cool event today with Tapas, Natasha, and Shruti. So maybe I can talk a little bit about this panel event first. So this panel event's goal panel discussion event's goal is to shed some light on the realities of software engineering industry, especially for women in tech. Our panelists today will share and discuss some things they have experienced in their journeys as software engineers. So yeah, before we get started, maybe I can first introduce the organization that organizes this event. So we are Women Who Code. Our mission is to empower diverse women to excel in technology careers. We have over 320,000 members in 147 countries, and Singapore being one of them. So yeah, I'm wearing my Women Who Code Singapore today. Okay, I'm short. So yeah, now I can just quickly read the code of conduct for you. So Women Who Code is an inclusive community dedicated to providing an empowering experience for everyone who participates in or supports our community, regardless of gender, gender identity and expression, sexual orientation, ability, physical appearance, body size, race, ethnicity, age, religion, socioeconomic status, case, creed, political affiliation, or preferred programming languages. So yeah, this is basically our code of conduct. If you're interested in volunteering, anyone's welcome to join. It's at womenwhocode.com/Singapore. And you can follow us on our socials at www.code Singapore, both on Twitter and Instagram. So yeah, with that, let's get started in the meat of things. So let me first introduce myself. So my name is Victoria. I'm a solutions engineer at PayPal. I'm also a tech blogger, and I'll be moderating this event today. And we also have actually Yumin Wong, who is the staff software engineer at GitHub. And she's also the software engineering track lead for Women Who Code Singapore. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it today because she's unwell. And we also have here Women Who Code co-director, Saloni. So yeah, she is a software engineer at Wise. So yeah, and now let me introduce our awesome panelists. First, we have Tapas. He's a really good friend of mine. Don't want to show any bias, but we've been friends for basically ever since I started blogging for maybe about 2.5 years. And he is an educator who teaches web development and full stack development using his YouTube's channel, public speaking, and blog. He has over 17 years of experience in building and delivering software products. And besides that, Tapas is also an open source enthusiast who has contributed to and maintained several projects, one of them being React Play. So yeah, really a big fan of that. Thank you, Tapas. Maybe you can say hi to the audience or something.
Yes. I'm very happy to be here and going to learn and share a lot of stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. And then next we have Natasha. So Natasha is a cross-disciplinary software engineer advocating for lean software development frameworks to enable large organizations. She is interested in building cross-functional product teams that are obsessed with the end user experience, grounded in design thinking, and fully invested in optimizing developer productivity through DevOps practices. Natasha is best known for founding the team that built the Republic of Singapore Air Force first in-house web application, and recently founded Novus Networks, a research lab specializing in building tools to make innovation data more accessible to the public. So really cool stuff. Really can't wait to talk to you more about all that stuff today. That's really cool. So Natasha, say hi.
Hi, everybody. So excited for this panel discussion to start and to learn from everybody, both the panel and the audience as well.
Yay. And finally, we have Shruti. So Shruti is a full stack web developer and a tech educator from India. She likes to make web development simple for beginners through her courses, YouTube tutorials, and ebooks. So yeah, really excited to have you here, Shruti. We'll be, of course, sharing all the panelists' links at the end of the session. So yeah, welcome, Shruti.
Hello, everyone. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so now I guess we can get started. Maybe I'll start with the first question. So Tapas, you have been a software engineer for over 17 years. What inspired you to become a software engineer or work in the tech industry? And what keeps you motivated in this field?
Okay, so what inspired me, I have to go back to some stories possibly. The thing is, I never had in my mind that I have to go for engineering or do engineering at all, because I belong to a place which is like in remote village in India, and um, not many people at that time was really keen on doing engineering, or probably having ambition of doing engineering. I had to really come out of my village, explore things, and try to figure out like what exactly available. At least till my board exam, I never had any idea like what's going to happen and what is engineering and things like that. But yeah, after my board exam, some of my friends told like there's something called joint entrance exam that we need to kind of prepare for, and that's why we prepared for. I don't know, it's luck or skill. It happened. I got into engineering, and friends also told that if you don't get computer science and engineering, like you are done. It's not no use of doing engineering. So I would say if somebody inspired me, those friends, those are still with me somewhere. That I should do engineering. I should be a software engineer. I should be a computer science and engineering degree holder. That's how things started for me. But once I got into engineering, the thing was completely different. It's like there was a lot of hardship, because the completely a new environment, new kind of things to study. And of course, then when you come to the actual offices and your industry, software industry, facing the people that who are actually working for years over there, that's a kind of completely different ballgame, right? So I'm talking about an era which is like almost 17 years back, which was way different. People from that era probably can understand, right? The internet, the way you communicate with people, the way you share things is entirely different than what we have today. So I think what motivates me to go on is like basically that the day-to-day learning that I feel that keep me relevant. And if I am today, after 17 years, still able to code, still able to think about, giving a talk or doing a YouTube video about the relevant technology, I think it is because I am so motivated to learn. I'm so motivated to understand like what is going on in the world. And that's the same thing that kept me going throughout in my software engineering career, is the curiosity. That's what it's an eagerness for learning.
Wow, I like that. I really like that. Thanks so much. I think I agree with really everything you mentioned about that curiosity, that passion. So yeah, I think that's really wonderful that you're doing that. Maybe over to you, Natasha. Is there anything you like to mention or anything? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the curiosity and passion to learn is something that drives me. But I think like Tapas, I think software engineering was not something that all of us started out like, in our various education systems and in university knowing like, yes, software engineering is going to be my lifelong career. I'm going to dive into this and then I'm going to die and retire doing software engineering. Yeah, it definitely wasn't like that for me. I had no idea what coding was, software engineering was, all the way until I started my first job actually. And I really only stumbled into it because in the context of my job back then, when I was training for my first job as a military air traffic controller, there was a problem that I was trying to solve like in the context of my organization. And it just so happened that I guess I was Googling or something, and being able to program a software became quite apparent as one of the solutions to that problem. And that's kind of like how from there, I began my journey into software engineering. I think like there's still a lot of like little stories here and there, but to cut a long story short, I think what amazes me about software engineering is how versatile software can be as a medium to solve many problems. It's really the problem solving aspect that intrigues me, that it can solve a lot of different problems across industries, across people, and across countries. And it's a field that keeps growing as the breadth of user problems grows. So there's a solution out there, an open source solution often, that you can build on for almost every single problem. If you need a way to optimize roster scheduling for nurses, like the nurse scheduling in hospitals, there's Google OR tools. If you need to have a means to notify like a mass campaign of people about a certain situation, there's Twilio. There's so many things that are out there that you can leverage on to solve like a problem that seems so far detached from software engineering, but software engineering just, comes at the heart of all these problems. And I think I also like that there's hardly any gatekeeping when it comes to solving any problem in software engineering. as long as you have the passion, you have the curiosity, like Tapas mentioned, and you have the tenacity to want to like find and source all these different solutions and put it together and build on it to solve problems for people, real people who have niche problems. You have all the tools in the world to do so with software. And I think that's, what really keeps me motivated to keep learning and developing, to continue like discovering what tools are out there for me to solve the variety of problems that I see in my society, in my organization, and around me. So yeah, that's for me in software engineering.
I think that's one thing common among all of us, right? We are here because we are able to solve real world problems through software. It just feels like magic. We have the magical ability to somehow find a software solution to a real world problem, and our ability to solve problems is what keeps us going. Same with me as well. Like Natasha and Tapas mentioned, I didn't know that I'm going to be in the software field, when I was born, or even when I graduated almost. It just happened that, I tried multiple things, and in my third year of engineering, I just happened to clear a Microsoft internship interview, by chance. That's what I would say. And that's where I realized, okay, so I'm capable of this. I belong to this industry. That's how I happened to land here. But I stayed here because of how amazing it is. And because I realized I could make a difference when I built some web applications for my clients, I realized that it truly helps them. It really helps their business and manage their day-to-day activities. So that's what kept me going. And when I turned an educator, I saw that things that I am able to grasp, a lot of people are not able to. So I try to simplify things and pass it on. So that's what keeps me going.
Okay.
Victoria, you hear?
Yeah. That's really cool. So thank you so much for sharing. I think all of you have really amazing journeys so far, and just hearing all of you guys and how you keep motivated being in this field, it inspires me as well. So thank you so much. And maybe I can ask you, Shruti, since while you're on mute, looking back at your career and all that you've achieved, what was something that you were really proud of?
So there was a time I was working at a startup, and my boss, or he was actually my friend as well, and he just said, I have an idea for an Android app. Can you develop it? I said, I've never developed Android apps. That needs Java. I have very basic knowledge of that. He said, it's okay. I think you can learn and go ahead. So I just directly dove into development and then completely learned on the go. I still don't know Java. I still don't know how I developed it, but I just, Stack Overflow is our friend, right? So I kept looking upon every single step. I searched how to do it because, there was nothing to lose. It was just a random idea, and I had some time. And I developed the app, I think, within a couple of months, and I launched it. And I think just in a matter of 3 to 4 months, it got more than 50,000 downloads and a lot of great reviews that, it works perfectly. It was a very short, simple app, and there were thankfully no bugs. So that is something I'm really proud of. I could have simply said, no, I don't know how to develop this. I am not going to try, right? But having tried, yes, later certain things happened, and there were few permissions or something I forgot to update, so the app went down completely. So that's different, but I tried, I gave it a shot, and I reached there, and today I can talk about it, right? That was one thing. And another thing is, another proud moment is when my first ebook sold over 1,000 copies across 80 countries. It was my first ever book. I had no clue that it will go so viral. I wrote it because I felt there were no real world practical examples for CSS, Flexbox, and Grid. So I felt like picking up all the examples, thinking of all the examples, and compiling them and teaching Flex and Grid through these examples. And that really hit it off. So I'm happy that I was able to accomplish this, writing the book and video tutorials. All that I do right now, I do it only for 3 to 4 hours a day. That's all I work, because rest of the time I'm a full-time mom and a homemaker. So that's something I really feel proud about, and I wish to pass on to more number of people.
Cool.
I think
Very
writing.
good.
Yeah, and Saloni has a question. What was the app name? The app was group call, but it was not like Zoom where you call a group of people at once. It was something like a sequential call. So let's say you have a team of 4 people, and every day you do follow-up calls by the end of the day, just to ask them what happened during the day. And you call one person, you call the second person, you cut the call, you call the third person. Instead of that, you would just create a group in the app and just say call. So it's a hands-free app. After you cut the call or the other person cuts the call, it starts calling the second person and third, and it ends that way. So that was the app.
Yeah, I almost thought it was Zoom, so thank you for caveating that. That's not Zoom in the past. It's a different application. But it'd be cool if you built Zoom. Yeah. Otherwise, I really I wanted to jump in and talk about something I'm really proud of, because when you said you develop an Android app without knowing anything about Android, I think it's very similar to something that I'm proud of, which is I basically started and founded a team from scratch in my organization to do software development when I was in an organization that had never done any type of software related stuff within the organization before. So that's something I'm proudest of having built a truly cross-functional team within my organization that is firmly grounded in end user experience and continuous learning, which I think is a going theme for today, right? Continuous learning. So I think many people know already how hard it is to build a team for a startup from scratch. But I think the world of corporate venture building tends to not really be talked a lot about in the field. So corporate venture building is basically building a startup, but within an established organization with established business functions. So I was really stepping into this plain blank sheet of what do I do if I have this vision that software development can work within an organization rather than traditional outsourcing. So what do I have to do to pull people together to build this startup from inside out? So basically, unlike a startup where you can kind of hire off the street, find the best, most talented individuals, like yourself, Tapas, Victoria, you can't do that often with a corporate venture. You often have to insource from inside. So you don't really have many options for team members, and really the best that you can trust yourself with is somebody who has an inkling of what software development is, but mostly you trust them with your life. I had to find and convince trusted colleagues who are ready to take a leap of faith with me and to give up a steady and very certain route of progression in their organization and career with nothing but my product vision. I think that was a crazy place to start at, kind of developing a whole app when you have no idea what programming is, right? So that was very difficult, and relying on just pure user centricity, just telling the stakeholders and the various hierarchical stakeholders in my organization that I want this product to be user centric because there is a true user need. That's kind of difficult to drive across within an organization, as opposed to you have a startup, as long as users use it, you've got a product. But from the inside, you have a much wider range of stakeholders. So having to convince those key stakeholders as well was a big obstacle. And furthermore, software development is very far detached from my organization. We had never done it before. Plus, I am very young and I am also very female. So that whole thing, I think just starting from that point was difficult. I think I'm proudest of having, been able to put that together, and really I have my team to thank for that. So really, if you start from nothing and you have nothing at all, but you have this big vision, the most important thing is really to find a trusted team of people that and can work with. I have some of them right here in this chat. There's Daniel, there's Oliver. So great people that I've worked with from the start who trusted in me and the vision I had for the product. And today I have a good, steady, decent team who basically are very grounded in user experience. They're very capable and reliable because they trust in continuous learning. They learn from educators like you, voraciously. You don't have to force them to be oh, okay, you have to learn this for this job. We all take continuous learning very seriously. And I'm just so proud of that with basically built more than just a product together. We've manifested ourselves as a living, breathing advocate for relentless user centricity and merciless software engineering best practices. And I really can't be prouder of having started, that movement, not even just a product. Yeah.
That's really
that's
great,
pretty
Natasha,
cool.
because
That's super
as
cool.
a as a female, I understand how difficult it
Right.
must have been to, right, prove it to the others. You just have to, prove it to a lot of people that you know what you're doing, right? So that's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
Tapas,
Yeah,
you were
it's
saying
really
something.
awesome.
Hmm.
I'm saying it's really awesome. Even without being a female, I can tell that it is really, really awesome thing.
You don't have
So,
to be a female. You can overcome obstacles and be strong and independent.
so yeah, I like the point that Shruti told about what she felt proud about, like without knowing about Java or the technical stuff of it, she just dived into it and did it. I guess that's what we are for, this software developers, right? We are for this situation. God would have created this role, I don't know, like for this situation that we have to go and save somebody somewhere, right? By doing this, by diving into. So I like that characteristic a lot, basically. And I've seen a lot of good, promising people like coming up by showing this characteristic. So my proudest moment is something similar that what Natasha told is like when I started in my organization. So I was very keen on learning UI and UX. That was my interest. And my organization, hopefully nobody's here, they were really not they're really not hooked into about UI and UX. So if I tell like, oh, okay, this has to be done like this, they will tell, just put that button right side, it will work, it's okay. So that was that was the attitude that people had. And at the same time, customers were also coming up. That's the time when mobile app was becoming much famous, and familiar. People were realizing, okay, tip of a button, they can do a lot of stuff. Then the web app is looking so ugly. That transition was like completely broken. So I was really having tough time to understand, like, how am I going to make these people realize that we have to do something? I used to see a lot of YouTube video, how to convince your boss for UX. And there is a video when people told that, you take a cup and make the cup, completely upside down and tell your boss to drink a coffee with that, will you be able to drink something like, so all this nonsense that was going on in my head, like, how am I going to convince, how am I going to convince? So one fine day I told the person is like, what's your problem? I mean, what is stopping you from doing this? So the person was telling it is skill and the resource. I told, okay, if I solve that problem of skill and resource, am I going to take this step of making these things happening, basically? Because there was a product which was customers really not liking it. And we were just moving a button right and left and trying to fix that thing for the customer. So we actually had a team of 3 comparatively junior members work together, trying to understand the UX philosophies, talk to friends, UX friends whom we can't hire because we don't have the authority, but can talk to others and try to understand, like, how to do the things best. And that's how the UX journey started. And when I left the organization, basically, a couple of weeks back, it was one of the center of excellence of UX. It's known for. There is a centralized team for UX right now, and I'm very proud that at least in my product and my product line, I built a team which is like very UX centric. People talk about it. People talk about the user experience, customer problem, pain points, and all these things. So I think that is one of my proudest moment. And then another one, probably a bit personal, is like, again, the background that I'm coming from, the English was never a primary language for us. So it was only in engineering when I started reading a book which is in English. So it was really hard for me, like, reading a book in English. Reading is still okay. Writing, think about writing. Writing is much harder. And today, my blog, which is in English, which receives 150K page views per month, read by so many people, and they feel that whatever I'm writing, they're understanding, even not it is grammatically super correct, but they're understanding, it is helping them a lot day in, day out. I think that gives me a kick somewhere that, okay, I've achieved something as an educator, maybe a software developer, a person who can actually teach people. Yeah.
Wow, that's super, super inspiring. Thank you so much. And yeah, I know that you've stayed in that company for a really long time, right, Tapas? So you pretty much built that company from ground up, making it like the center, the hub of UI UX design. That's really, really cool. How long did you stay in that company, by the way? Wasn't it 10 years? Was it?
15 years, 10 months.
Wow, wow. So yeah, amazing. Like his passion just to like, have that UI UX. It's really important. It's really important. So I'm so glad like you were at the forefront that does that. That's amazing. Okay, so we have talked about the good, right? So now let's talk about maybe the slightly bad, slightly ugly, because it's not always like rainbows and sunshine, right? So maybe I'll start with Natasha, because you mentioned about how you had to build like cross-functional teams and you have to build trust with them. And you're also a woman engineer, like a woman in tech at the time. How did you overcome those hurdles? Or like, is there any like failures that you learned from and you overcome? Any learnings you want to share about that?
Yeah, actually, Tapas gave me a very good segue into that by talking a lot about UI UX, and especially, as somebody who was one of like the founding people when UI UX is already like a quite recent term, and for you to have done that like 15 years ago, I can imagine like the number of obstacles and number of like hurdles you had to jump for that. Because even today, when you talk about UI UX, all people think about is not all, but like a lot of people who mean well but don't yet know the field very well think it's just about aesthetics, right? But really it's way more than that. It's discipline, and a lot of my work and building my team, and that why I name it cross-functional in the first place is to remind people that despite you being a developer or a product manager or like a designer yourself, your job is not confined just within the very narrow scopes of how I guess society or others define it. You have to practice being cross-functional and understand the disciplines of others to make your job better. So I started out like only knowing how to develop. I heard of UI UX, and I was very lucky to be in an accelerator back when I was in university that exposed me to the concept of it, but I had no idea what it was. But I did know that it was grounded in what the user's problem was, just like what Tapas said. So the first thing I did was just like you did, ask my designer friends, ask my UI UX designer friends, what exactly do you do in your job, and what is the discipline that you have to follow through in order to achieve a product that people actually want to use. So I think like that's how I slowly started to really identify with being a cross-functional developer as well as designer, because I practice a lot of like UI UX concepts together with development, and I kind of fuse them. So going back to like hurdles, this ironically is a hurdle of mine, because once I label myself as cross-functional software developer and designer, the first thing people think of when they look at me, they forget the word software developer and they immediately think designer. Every time I walk in the room, as part of my product team, I'm immediately taken to be the designer more than anything else, and any other technical questions will be deferred to the other men in my team. Obviously, like the men in my team are really, really awesome, but it's very difficult that I'm in this strange Venn diagram where I'm in a military organization where there are so few women, and I'm also in software development where there's so few women. And if we combine those two, I might actually be the only military women software developer in Singapore. So it's definitely one of the biggest hurdles that I've had to overcome. But the reason that I can sit here today and tell you that I am a software developer in the Republic of Singapore Air Force is already proof that the people in the organization, who have fought with me and fought for me, they did place their faith in me. But the start state was hard. I'm not here to like, lament about my organization, but I'm just here to be upfront about gendered glass ceilings that still exist, not because people are ill-meaning and want to do harm to people, but, because of the context of our society that is still evolving and growing, and the fact that we still have many more people outside of our field even to educate. And that's why people like Tapas and Shruti play such important roles in this community to educate the people who are in, as well as outside as to what software development is. And the more people know, the more people understand that, you know, these skills are not just compartmentalized and just like, this is a male dominant organization. You know, when you reach out to the audience, Tapas, as somebody who champions UI UX, they'll realize, oh, look, it's not just a woman's job, UI UX. This is a man who's a developer for 17 years and he champions UI UX. For Shruti to stand up and be like, I am a developer. It just so happens I'm a woman, but look, I've written a book. You know, I understand like these concepts just like everybody else. I'm not just a woman. Like these are important representations for people to see and look at. And I think like that's what I'm trying to see is my new role now in my organization where this concept is very near. I understand that being labeled a designer than a developer many times, it's just, you know, human instinct and heuristics. It is true there are more female software engineers than males, so it's just easier for people to fall back on that assumption. But this judgment can be detrimental to my role as somebody who is cross-functional and trying to advocate for both user centricity as well as DevOps. Because if you just see me as a developer alone, when I talk about DevOps, you know, you're not going to listen to that. You're only going to focus a lot more about the design and maybe even think that I'm biased towards this because all I know is design. It's very difficult when I come up, you know, to speak to a stakeholder. There are stakeholders who have sort of been more hesitant to speak with me about technical product considerations that he would prefer to either speak to a male engineer or my male PM instead. You know, I've also experienced many times when I would be incorrectly introduced as a product designer in strategy discussions to build teams. So it would weaken my credibility as somebody coming forth with a software development stance as well.
Right.
And it also doesn't help that one of the key product strategies I like to emphasize on is to build design systems early, you know, so as to maintain design consistency and, you know, ensure the product is scalable. Because when people hear design system, immediately they just focus on what design and don't think about system, right? Because I'm a woman. So these are obstacles that I've had to continually like kind of jump that hurdle to go across. But I feel like the more I do this, the more I improve the landscape and ecosystem to understand that a developer is more than just a woman or a man. Like anybody can be a developer. It's a very accessible skill that is kind of like versatile across industries to have. That empowers me to know that the people I speak to, you know, once the stakeholders were hesitant to talk to me about technical product details, now understand that, oh, I'm actually a developer. So now I've opened their eyes. And then the next person, you know, who used to think I was just a designer and today he sees me on my computer coding is like, no, like a woman, it doesn't just have to be a designer. Yeah, so that's the role that, you know, I think I play now. And that makes me more motivated to represent my product and my cause stronger to change the perception of not just women in software engineering, but software engineering in general, that is accessible to everybody. And these are important roles that Shruti and Tapas play very well and have played for even longer than I have. And I'm sure they have like even more difficult obstacles to jump over in this very long journey. Yeah, maybe Tapas, you can share more about that because I was really, like amazed when you said that English was not your first language and you had to struggle, and your first book in English was a programming book. So maybe you could talk more about that. How do you do it?
Yeah, I think if I have to talk about the hurdle, I think it will be like all sort of communications, you know, around me. I think that's my biggest hurdle. That was actually, I think I've kind of overcome it to a good extent. So first is like when I got into engineering, started reading a programming book in English, not knowing English much. Even to get a help from somebody, I don't have anybody because there are people like me, most of the folks around. Right? And again, you know, probably I'm sounding like I'm from ancient era, but still at that time, there is not much in internet that you can actually take help from. So you have to somehow survive, and you have to get through it. You have to pass your exams. You have to, you know, somewhat show that you're a good guy coming out as engineering degree and things like that. But my main struggle started when I joined the software industry. The communication problem become really higher because now you are meeting people who are coming from all part of the world. Even if in India, right, it's so much diverse. There are different people from different background, you know, coming. And a city like Bangalore, where I got job, you know, which is like, you know, metropolitan, and there are a lot of different background people are coming. And I'm shivering somewhere at the back of many folks Like, how am I going to introduce myself? If somebody asking me to introduce, like my legs are shivering, my hands are sweating, and I'm kind of choking. I need water, kind of symptom. So that hurdle started probably from that first day when I had to introduce myself to a director, say who am I, where am I coming from, and I don't know what kind of English I spoke, but somehow I would have communicated like my background and things like that. But one good thing is like I never felt that demotivated, dejected, or depressed about this thing. Like that I'm not able to speak well, I'm not able to do well, my English is not good, my body language is not good, maybe I'm always trying to hide. I never felt very depressed about it. Rather, I tried to do better at it. At my college, there was not much avenues to do that, but in my office, there were a lot of avenues, because now I could connect to many other people who might be helpful to me, can tell me that what I can do better and where I can actually get better at. So I joined there's something called Toastmaster Club, where you can go and start talking in English. You can start talking in front of people. You break your that, introvertness, you break your that shyness, you start talking about things. Then I used to kind of listen, sit in some of the sessions, very randomly used to go, whether I understand that technical topic or not, doesn't matter. I used to go and I used to only see how this guy or girl is speaking English so well, so fluently. That's what I used to be very amazed at. I never used to try to understand what is the technical topic around. I just used to see and listen like, wow, it's like so fluent. I got to be there. I need to be there. So this is what used to go on in my mind continuously. Then I took my step of forward to give sessions, give talk. As I was bit stronger on the technical side. The technical aspects were not that much problem. It was just the communication that I had to work with. And gradually it happened. And today, what I believe, if I can do it, anybody can do it. That is the confidence I want to give to everybody, because I know where am I coming from. I know what kind of hurdle I have been through, the struggle I have been through. The colleagues of my initial days who are still good friends with me, they know the transformation that I could make. So I can guarantee that if I can do, anybody can do, this thing. But that hurdle was really a sweet one, I would say, today to surpass. Yeah.
Wow.
How about you, Shruti?
Yeah, so I think due to lack of time, we're just gonna skip ahead to maybe
Okay.
Since Tapas, you have mentioned about like your past experience, maybe I can ask Shruti the same. Maybe in your past experience, Shruti, what are some of the common mistakes that you've seen as an educator, software engineers made? How can they be avoided, and what would you do?
Yeah, the most common one I find is that people tend to skip the basics because there's so much to do, and there are like so many steps that you need to cross. People say, hey, why do I need to even go through all of this? Let me just directly jump into this framework or directly jump. Maybe you'll be able to catch it initially and you'll somehow make things work. But if you don't fully grasp the basics, you'll actually take much longer to get where you need to, right? So before jumping onto any advanced topic or concepts, make sure that you've not only learned the basics well, but also worked with them for a while. Yeah, maybe today you don't have to. I come from a PHP background, so even if you don't have to write code PHP, if you work with a few apps before, you'll know how things work. So when you work with a framework like Laravel or something, you're able to appreciate, and it's not magic. You know why something works the way it works, and you'll also be able to appreciate people who contribute to open source because they have done all the hard work, and they're giving it to you. You can't simply say, hey, this feature is not available, this is so bad. You won't do things like that when you've really gone into the basics. That's one thing I have found, and I'd really like to say that a solid foundation is more important than you think. Do you feel the same, Tapas, since you're also in the education field?
Yeah, definitely. The foundation is definitely required. People always kind of try to say like, oh, I have to, for you it is very relevant. I want to learn, tell me. But CSS basics is not there, right? So you can relate, right? So that kind of
Yes.
thing. I'll add one quick thing is about, along with what Shruti just said, is like one other thing would be staying relevant. Like, today, if you talk about, people are just talking about chat GPT 3, 4, even government is now, in there are a lot of things going on. Now, if we are not staying relevant with things, like the AI stuff, we have not thought about it in like 3 or 5 years back, what it is today, it is going to be a problem. So it's like embracing like what is coming up, at least appreciate like it is happening, try to get into that, try to see like what it is, what's its future is also very important.
Okay, yeah, so that's really cool. Both of you really have amazing advice for the aspiring software engineer, for common mistakes that software engineers might make. Maybe Natasha, I can ask a follow-up questions based on Tapas and Shruti. What advice would you give to aspiring software engineers? What qualities do you believe are essential for success in this field?
I think the qualities that I think are important for success is something that Shruti talked about, and I'm going to build upon that, which is just that sheer curiosity to learn and understand what's at the bottom of things. We're very lucky to, like at least for me as a junior developer, I'm very lucky to exist in a world where there's open source, because there's a lot of things that are abstracted and made easier for us so that we don't have to go through the pain that probably Tapas and Shruti, you guys had to go through to build things. You guys probably took a much longer process because I know they weren't like software and tools that abstracted these concepts for you. So you could build things. So now we can build things much faster and we can achieve the product vision much faster. But oftentimes, like Shruti mentions, I have to catch myself when I realize that I don't actually understand the concept behind what I'm using. I'm just kind of like copying and pasting from things like Shruti's book, without really understanding what's at the bottom of it. So, some days when I'm using a framework, I ask myself like, what's at the bottom of this framework? Like even React, it's everybody uses it right now, right? It's so pervasive. It's as if it's like the building block for any web application at this point. But did you know that in the past there was no React? Component-based development was not a thing. You would have to like retype that one tag again and again and again and again just to create a website. Websites were also seen as pages, so you don't have fancy things like SPA or static pages and stuff like that. Things were crazy back then, and you have to understand underlying your frameworks, how it's being compiled into browser readable code. What does that mean? These are things that curiosity really drives you to learn and understand. I usually also try to take a step back to challenge myself to build things, in my free time, like very small things. Like I'm not going to go crazy and build like a whole framework myself or a design system, but maybe I'll build like a small little component from scratch in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then try to see if I can build a library out of that and what it takes to do that. I think these things, you're going to hit into a lot of roadblocks, but once you hit into those roadblocks, you fail and then you succeed a little bit and then you fail again and then you have 1,000 other bugs, you realize what's at the heart of these things that have been abstracted and are so commonplace in our day and age. Even things like coding on a notepad, you should definitely try that. Like, don't VS Code, like it's all the hype now and it's perfect, it's great. But I took a long time to go back on VS Code because I started out on a notepad because the context back then was I didn't have the resources to do so. But even then I only used Atom and the terminal. But even the transition to VS Code made me realize that a lot of people don't know what a terminal is, what a text editor is, and that there's a difference between both. Some people like in schools, when they try to integrate like digital education into curriculum, they try to take like very easy tools to make it more accessible, like Jupyter notebooks. So it's great for learning and a starting stage that educators should and can use to make coding more accessible. But as like a software developer, I think to upskill yourself, it's always important to bear that at heart, that everything is built upon everything else, and you have to learn what the fundamentals are, just like Shruti mentioned, and to always take time, a little bit of time outside of your work hours or what your primary job scope is, to try something completely different, be it to code in vanilla JavaScript, or maybe just, for the fun of it, to just try out a completely new framework. You don't have to do something completely crazy, like go from like, I don't know, JavaScript to like Java, but do something very small, like instead of using an NPM package manager, you realize you don't know what package managers do, maybe try using PNPM, like one of the newest ones. Maybe try using Yarn, and then ask yourself, so what's the difference between these two? Why can't I just use NPM all the way? And then slowly you realize, oh, actually, it's kind of faster because of, parallel downloading of packages. Oh, that's what a package manager does. I think these things like help a lot to allow you to become a better developer, because you understand that every decision you make is a concerted one. And one thing that I learned very recently from one of my senior engineers, as well as like being introduced a little bit to the world of technical blogging and writing, is to document like your experiences. One of the things that you can do at work is to do architectural decision records, ADRs, where you do research on various comparisons of a certain tool that you want to use or framework that you want to use, and you make comparisons. So you're documenting the process of why exactly did I choose this? Why exactly is this better than the other one? And that really helps to manifest and make things clearer in your head as to each and every single step you do, rather than just go through the process of rote copying and pasting. So those are things that I think are really important for a developer to learn, especially fresh out of school, because school usually teaches you theories and concepts they teach you fundamentals, but oftentimes when they try to teach coding and programming itself, I find that accessible mediums are usually used, which is totally understandable, right? Who wants to frighten like this poor young kid who's trying to get in the world coding, like, with like typing assembly or something? Nobody's going to want to be like a programmer at that point. But no, they're going to use like, oh, maybe try this Jupyter notebook. You don't have to worry about like a terminal or whatever, just code. Yeah, but after that, if we truly want to go into the field as a software developer, as a lifelong career, then it's time to explore more things. Yeah. And what do you guys think, Tapas and Shruti? You guys are educators here. I'm just like trying to live my life as a junior developer.
No, very well said.
Yeah,
Maybe after
and
this
she
we
covered all
can-
the breadth.
Oh, sorry, Tapas. I just want to.
I'm saying that she covered it very well. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, I agree. She covered it really, like everything that I probably also want to say. So that's really good. But if you have anything to add on, feel free, because after
That's
this we'll.
fine.
Okay. Okay, so now we're almost gonna wrap up here. There's a lot that I can like just we can just continue this conversation on and on and on. However, due to lack of time, I guess now we can wrap up and like move on to the audience questions, because obviously we can't ignore the burning questions our audience have. So from Samantha, she's actually asking to Tapas and Shruti, can you please talk a bit about your role as an educator and the main topics you educate on related to software engineering or programming?
Okay, I'll go first. So what I do basically, I try to teach things fundamentally. So of course there are millions of resources available on JavaScript, React, full stack development. There's no doubt of it. But what I am focusing on is to understand things like fundamentally, because I believe that the concept goes above the syntaxes. And once you understand things conceptually, you actually have a big breakthrough. So my focus is about teaching full stack, teaching web development, teaching how to create content, all these areas basically. And I do it through my blog and also my YouTube channel. Yeah, what do you, Shruti?
Yeah, and recently I think Tapas is like growing crazily on YouTube. Every other other day I see him 5,000 subscribers, 6,000 subscribers. So I think people are really loving his way of teaching. I've seen that also. Yeah, about me, the topics that I love and I teach are Tailwind CSS and Laravel and CSS also. So that's I totally love all of these. So I talk more about them on my YouTube channel. You can find about 25 videos that are related to Tailwind CSS. Then my ebook is related to CSS. I have written a course as well on CSS, and on Laravel I have a course on in LinkedIn Learning on basics, and the advanced courses coming up very soon. So the modes through which I teach is, through my YouTube channel. And then here and there, I write a few tips on Twitter. Very rarely I write a few blogs. I like to do more, but I'm not able to. And then I have a weekly newsletter on CSS. Then I have courses on platforms like LinkedIn Learning and Laracasts. Yeah, so very soon there's something else coming which you all will know. Tapas already knows. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to disclose that, but another mode of educating as well. Yeah, so thank you. That's
something cool is coming out. Yeah, true.
So exciting for both of you. Okay. Yes. So let's look forward to whatever these two content creators will put out, right? I'm sure it'll be amazing. So the next question is for all three of you. So Saloni is asking, what are some of the most exciting developments happening in software engineering right now? And what do you think the future holds for this field? Yep. So if any of you wants to answer.
I can start with it. So I think there are a lot of exciting things happening, and I have seen the things almost from mainframe till what is happening today with AI. It's like a big transition, right? So, but talking about today's age, like web development is always a green field, and it is going to be, right? Web development, mobile development is always a green field going to be. There is always ML, AI, a lot of it being spoken about. People are creating crazy product on AI. People are creating crazy thing on GPT APIs. So there's a lot of things. Gamification is another thing. IoT, there are a lot of experimentation happening on IoT. My wife is from a startup which is an IoT, so I know, I hear day in, day out about the Raspberry Pis. Then smart devices, of course, around IoT. Then robotic process automation, RP is another thing. Blockchain, cybersecurity. So I can keep talking about it, that the things are kind of happening, and the kind of scope is so elaborated. So I'll go back to my first answer, is like the curiosity. Is that something that you should drive each of us to dive into? Like, what field do we think we are curious about? And there are enough of it to kind of dive into. Yeah, that's my take. Natasha, what's your take?
Yeah, I think like I'm going to talk about things I've learned in the recent year, Lauren, which have surprised me. And I actually learned this from developers even younger than I am. Continuous learning, right? You got to learn from the youngest and brightest. So I think one of the more exciting developments is in the field of DevOps, like how developers are no longer, you're just confined in the world of development. You're also sort of like trying to integrate the operational quote unquote side of things that traditional organizations tend to label as just IT or just infrastructure. But now we're seeing those worlds kind of collide, and engineers, I wouldn't just say developers, but engineers all around are equipped with the tools to have autonomy over both the development process as well as the deployment process, and the really end-to-end in this case. So serverless computing is one of like the biggest things I've learned in just the past year alone. Both my friends, like my colleagues Daniel and Oliver, were the ones who like really introduced me to that world, deploying your own Azure function and all of that good stuff. So really there's so many past products that have been coming up like recently, DETA, DETA, Fly, they basically allow you to, just host something, perform serverless functions. You can literally integrate it straight from a GitHub repository, Vercel, for example. So easy for a developer to deploy their product into production rather than keep it in a development environment, which I think, I don't have experience like of 17, 20 years, but I think in the past in organizations, they tend to compartmentalize these functions. But now like, young developers are coming out and learning how like vaguely how infrastructure works by kind of having the hands kind of touch a little bit of it, and then going back to my point about how you learn, right? Because you've touched it and you sort of like understand, okay, I've kind of deployed a serverless function. Now you ask yourself, what does that mean, right? What is all the infrastructure underlying it, and why did this whole practice used to be a completely separate vocation? So that's where the interesting part lands, because things are so accessible and abstracted, you get to learn so much more. And that's the case for serverless computing, as well as all these different platform as a service tools like Fly, Vercel, Heroku, you name it, that allow you to jump onto this new bandwagon. There's also microservices architecture. Again, I had no idea like products or like software used to be very monolithic, like this is one product and this is another product, and they will never communicate because we contain them all in like one private network, no talking because security. But no, now we're all about microservice architectures, so that, you know, different products can leverage on like things that other products have built, which I think is also very much part of like that whole open source movement that I believe Shruti and Tapas were like at the forefront of. Basically, they've literally seen the change. So that's one thing that's really interesting. And obviously containerization along with serverless computing and microservice architecture, the fact that you can just like ship your app in like one neat little container, little shipping container, you know, like the little whale in Docker kind of shipping the shipping containers, the fact that you don't really need to worry about OS anymore. You know, you can kind of maintain that development environment in that little container. Like it boggled my mind when my friend was explaining the concept to me, like, how does this even work, right? But it does. And the last one, you know, Tapas, you talked about AI and machine learning. I'm excited at the new emerging technologies in the field of AI and machine learning for development. Like at the GitHub Watch party, which was where I met Victoria, they were talking about GitHub Copilot. It's really incredible that the fact that, you know, as a developer now you focus on solving problems. And we've caught ourselves many times where we're like, okay, I know I want to do this. I know I want to transform this thing into that. But I totally forgot about the syntax and how do I write the syntax this way?
Yeah.
So you go to Stack Overflow, right, Shruti, our best friend, and then you try to find the answer. But now you don't, like, the text editor literally like crowdsources for the answers for you, so you can focus more on the problem solving. And I think that's incredible, right? AI and machine learning, it's making software development and software engineering in general way more accessible to anybody to learn. So anybody can just pick up a computer and just start coding immediately. Again, like I was talking about, this is a field where nobody's gatekeeping information. And I really like that because we see so many fields and disciplines that because of gatekeeping, you know, their own disciplines are kind of like shrinking because it's so hard to build experts in that area. But now, like with all these different tools and emerging technologies, like, you know, it's crazy that people coming out of school, I know that they get free GitHub Copilot licenses now as a student. Yeah, these developers
But
are
I did one.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna use like one of my friends with the students' accounts. You know, like I want to get my hands on one. But
How do I be
basically,
a student?
yeah, yeah, basically. But yeah, we're basically gonna see like younger developers who know way more than us because they have so much more information in front of them.
Yeah.
I think that's just like an amazing transformation in this industry that I really hope like affects and influences other industries as well outside of software development. You know, we are basically closing gaps on age. We're basically closing gaps on like gatekeeping on information. And I think that's amazing to see.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, I think due to lack of time, we can move on to the next question. We have a lot of questions. So thank you everyone for asking all these questions. So yeah, there is Lisa who is moving on to software development. So she's not coming from a comp sci or an SE background, and she's actually learning to prepare for interviews. So her question is, she's mostly self-learning. So she was asking all three of you if you can please provide some good resources for programming concepts such as data structures, algorithms in Python, Java, and for interview preparation mostly.
Yeah, so yeah, there is one educator called Kunal Kushwa. He is having good DSA playlist. I'll share that link on Java. I think he teaches on Java, so I think that will be useful there. I'll share that link. Victoria, you can share it after that.
If anyone have nothing to add, we can quickly move on to the next question. This one is for Natasha. So Brian actually asked about your Novus networks. He's like, do you mind speaking a little bit more about that? So interested to know what it is and how you got into it.
Yeah, Novus Networks is one of those things where I mentioned, how do you learn? You learn outside of your work, try to do something different. So I've been like stuck in the space of web development for quite some time. And data analytics is like this big new field that I used to be part of, but I kind of like had to sidestep from it back in university when I was doing research on big data, specifically patent data. Like when people file intellectual property, then you talk about IP, but there's basically this whole repository of like people's patents. And I think I basically talk a lot about like, how software development, there's no gatekeeping of information because all the information is out there. So it's quite interesting because like in the patent and IP space, the person who created the idea of keeping all patents in one place actually wanted it to be a place for innovation to be more accessible. Sort of, he was trying to create a GitHub of sorts, if you think about it. But I think that like effort has just kind of failed a little bit because now patents are just taken as like legal clauses for companies to play with and to strategize, that it's kind of lost the essence of like, we're trying to make innovation accessible to everyone, just like, with the GitHub repositories. So I was thinking that leveraging on this open source culture that we now currently have, is there a way to kind of translate all that patent data and to make innovations even outside of the field of software development accessible to all? A lot of the patents are in legalese, like legal terms that like are really hard to understand, but is there a way to maybe like translate that? Is there a way to put a web together out of that big data to allow people to see trends and connections, even build like prediction trajectories to be able to see how a technology can like traverse across industries? So Novus Networks is basically a manifestation of all these thoughts and ideas I've had outside of work. I really wanted to put that together. So I recently had the courage to again put together a team and do this as like sort of a side hustle to learn more about like the big data space, data analytics, as well as apply concepts I've learned in web development. Because I think these two are fields I haven't been able to really draw together yet. I've done a lot in design, project management, and web development, but I haven't really touched the space of data and kind of like tried to fuse that together. So Novus Networks is that. It's an accumulation of all of that. It's a work in progress, but any work is good work, like because you're learning, and I'm really focusing on learning on that. So yeah, Tapas and Shruti, if you ever look at the website of Victoria as well, please feel free to give me all the comments you have. I'm just here to like use that as an avenue to learn and to also give others a way to view big data in like a really beautiful and like understandable manner. So yeah, if you guys are interested, Victoria has, Saloni has very kindly like pasted our various socials in the chat. So I think that's where you can find our little projects if you're interested. And Tapas and Shruti, they have amazing stuff. It's way more decorated than mine, so you definitely should check them out. They have great content. Yeah. Learning from them daily. So like, yeah, you guys should too.
Actually, while we are ending soon, I might as well share everyone's links here. So if everyone can see my screen, these are all our panelists' links, social media, and everything. So if you're curious, do stalk them on social media and like find out everything you want from them. I think our latest question by Samantha asking Tapas and Shruti about your YouTube channels. I think I answered the question for them. So yeah, these are their YouTube channels on the slide here. So, Samantha is also asking if we need to register or subscribe to access them. I don't think so, right? Tapas, Shruti, both your YouTube channels available.
YouTube channel, yeah, you can access always, and subscription is up to you. If you subscribe, so you'll get notification when we release new videos. But please subscribe, yeah. It's always motivating to get new subscribers.
Yeah, same with mine as well. YouTube videos are accessible, but my books, yeah, they are not free. I don't have the free books, but yeah.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, Shruti, do you want to speak?
No, I had a problem. I just.
Okay. Okay, so I think we've come to the end of the session. There's no other more questions. thank you everyone for the participation. It's really amazing. And thank you to all the panelists for their answers. And I think we can understand from this whole panel discussion that software engineering is really something that accessible to anyone, like what Natasha mentioned. But of course, it comes with hurdles. It comes with the good, the bad, the ugly. However, if we have that curiosity, like what Tapas mentioned, and that passion as well, like what Shruti has done, I think anyone can really excel in this industry. So thank you.
Victoria, just one thing. I have posted a couple of messages. I'm not sure if they've reached to public chat. Just check that because Nancy was asking about the data structure YouTube channel. I posted that link.
Yep.
in the
I
chat.
will send it to all the attendees at the end of the session. So all the
Okay.
links that we talked about, all the question, I will send it a bulk email to all the attendees after this event. So yeah, also I'll also include Tapas' blog in the link. I think I forgot to put that in the slide, so I'll add his blog in. And yeah, so maybe about Novus Networks, Natasha, if you want to add that link as well to share with everyone. Yeah, we can also add that in the email. So yeah, so before you guys leave, feel free to, I think Saloni sent a feedback form. So we would really appreciate it if, you guys can tell us how we did for this event. So we know like what kind of future topics you want, or like what other sessions we can bring to you by Women Who Code, so that, we can give you some insightful sessions. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you to all the panelists. This was really amazing. Thank you for your time. I know we ran a little bit over, but yeah, I hope you have enjoyed the session as well. Yeah, I really wish we could continue the conversation, because I know there's so much we could talk about. Like really, I have so many burning questions as well from my end. But yeah, hopefully we can take it on another day, right? So yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you, everyone. Oh, okay. Actually, one last question, sorry. Lisa is asking Natasha and Tapas if you can suggest how to learn or use GitHub Copilot, and is there any resource that you found helpful for that?
Right. The thing is, like, GitHub Copilot is really, really new. Honestly, if Yumin were here, that would be great, because Yumin is literally in GitHub, but she's unwell, so she can't advise. But basically, if you're a student, you do get it for free. So I think like Lisa or Lisa, like, are you a student right now? Because maybe I can find like a link that you can basically submit your student email, and then you basically get like GitHub Copilot. I don't think there are many resources out there that teach you how to use it, because it really like was very recent. But I think just exploring it a little bit, like I think you just type a little bit of code, like you can even type a comment saying that write a function that does this, and it kind of like, have some kind of templated code out. Yeah, something like that. That's kind of what I saw in a watch party together with Victoria. But my friends use it. I honestly haven't used it. I have peer reviewed like code that have used it, so can attest it's pretty awesome. But yeah, let me find that right now. Compare plans. Oh, apply to GitHub, blah, blah, blah. Business. How to enable GitHub Copilot for free for students. I found an article on that. Thank you, technical writing community. Maybe Victoria and Tapas, you could write an article about that later.
Yeah, I just got some ideas.
Yeah, you totally should.
Okay, sorry, I'm just gonna put one final link, because I know we're running short of time. We're actually already a bit over, but I know everyone still have lots of questions. So we have this Google form for you. If you have any future questions to ask these panelists, feel free to ask in this Google form, so that we can get back to you if there's time. Yeah. So yay. Yeah, so thanks Natasha for the Dev2 article also. That's really cool. I'm gonna try Vue Student or somehow or like get it for free. But yeah, actually I used the
Human.
GitHub Copilot beta and it was so good, but you know, beta's over. So yeah, but yeah, it was really nice. It was really nice. So yeah, thank you everyone once again. It's really great to have all the panelists here as well. Thank you, Saloni, for joining. Thank you all for joining. So yeah, have a good evening to anyone. If the panelists, do you guys want to give last closing remarks or anything? Feel free to.
I just want to
Yeah.
thank everyone who joined in. I think it's quite late in Singapore, but you know, people still try to log in and listen. That itself shows how curious, like Natasha and Tapas mentioned, how curious you are to grow in this field. So lovely. Thank you, Natasha and Tapas and Victoria. So it was a lovely discussion.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
same here, Shruti. It was amazing to also learn a perspective from each other, right? I didn't know so much a perspective before, even though I knew Shruti, but today some new thing came to know. And I hope that it is somewhere helpful for everyone listen to us. And it will be a good thing, like if you have further questions or anything to discuss, the form that Victoria shared, please feel free to ask or feel free to connect. It will be really amazing to learn from you as well, once we connect outside. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, panelists and our moderator. I learned so much from you guys. Like I mentioned, like it's so important to have representatives who champion important causes. Like for you, Tapas, to be like UI UX all the way at the forefront. For Shruti to be a woman developer who wrote a book. That's crazy. Yeah, and for Victoria, it's amazing to be able to see a peer who's roughly my age, like doing great, awesome things. And to everybody here in this panel, to know that there are people who are passionate enough about software engineering to stay till like, what time is it, 11? That is awesome. And it just makes me feel so much part of the community and know that this community is growing. So yeah, I'm so excited. Please feel free to like drop us all PMs, DMs, whatever M's you guys want. I'm so excited to connect with every single one of you.
Cool.
Awesome. I think now we have to say our goodbyes, unfortunately, but we will hopefully we can meet in another event or in a Woman Who Code event or any kind of event. But it was really great talking with you all. Again, I really wish this could go on forever. However, it's time. So yeah, thank you everyone one last time. If you have any questions, feel free. The Google form is there and we'll send all the socials links of the panelists after this event in an email. Okay. All right. So thank you everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, all.
Bye.
Bye.